to go into some very important concepts. The concept that we're going to go into tonight is a very, very important concept. The truth of the matter is, it is one of the most critical concepts in all of Judaism, because what it really does, it will let you in on really what it's all about. In terms of what really we'll be doing, number one. Also, for the first time, we're going to have some kind of a glimpse of what Olam Haba will be like. And then after that, we'll all be ready to go to Olam Haba. The finish of that material will then allow us to go into the next critical topic, which is Adam Rishon, and from there we can begin to grasp the essence of the Messianic prophecy. So it's going to really lead us into some really critical when we're examining the issue of a certain type of cardinal principle in Judaism, which is called Tchiyas HaMetim. Tchiyas HaMetim means the resurrection of the dead. It is a cardinal belief, as I said last week, that there will come a time when all people in the world will live again. All those people who have died will again come to life. And death will be abolished forever. This is the principle of Tchiyas HaMetim. This is a cardinal Jewish belief, that there will come a time in the Messianic period itself, after the Mashiach comes. There will come a time in that era. When that will be and how that will be connected to the Messianic time is something for a future share. But there's a specific belief that at that time, all the dead will rise. Now, on that concept, that is a critical concept. This is not a minor Jewish concept tucked away somewhere in the back of the Siddur. This is a major concept. It is so major that the Gemara says, he who does not believe in the resurrection of the dead, in Tchiyas HaMetim, will not be resurrected. That's how serious that is. Now, of course, there are many qualifications to that. But basically, what we have wanted to know is to analyze what is the resurrection of the dead. And we have asked three basic questions last week, which I'll just quickly review. And today we're going to go into what I feel is the solution to that problem, on the level that we're capable of understanding at this point in time. There's a deeper level than that, but that will have to wait for the future.
Is this the answer to the cliffhanger you get?
Right. Question number one. What we said was the following. Why was the body... Now, the question what we said was, can the Rebbeinu Shalom bring the dead back? Well, of course he can bring the dead back. The Rebbeinu Shalom created life in the first place. It is no matter for him to put the neshama back into a body. What is death? Death, essentially, to be very clinical about it, is a separation of the neshama from the body, and allows the guf, or the body, to simply remain inanimate. That's what it is. It's the separation of the life force from the body, so that the guf now simply remains the way it is, which is essentially nothing more than a composition of different elements and chemicals. Okay? That's what death is. The Rebbeinu created all beings. The Rebbeinu created life. It is no problem for the Rebbeinu simply to reduplicate it and to take all the neshamas and the nefashos and re-instill it into the guf. There's no problem with that. The question is, why? Three questions. One, we have all known, and we said this last time, explained it at length, when the neshama goes back into the guf, it is very painful. It is very painful for a neshama, for a soul, to go into a body. When the neshama is first created, it is created without a body. It is forced to go into the guf. It is forced. And we explained that it is forced because what the Bereshit wants to do, the Bereshit wants it to go into a new type of circumstance where it will have to decide or achieve its own state of perfection to remove a critical problem in its nature called Namatsupa. Since the Neshama cannot sustain the toll that the Bereshit has in mind for it, without working for it, without creating it, the Bereshit creates a situation or a condition, which is our physical universe, where the person can actually create his connection to God directly and enjoy that relationship in Olam Haba. For the Neshama to go back in the group is a very painful thing because a group is an alien vessel for a Neshama. It is contrary to the nature of the Neshama. The Neshama is pure spirit and the group is non-spirit, it's physical. To take a spiritual thing and force it into a group is to literally imprison it. So the Neshama to go back to the group would be the same equivalent statement as if I said, I will take you and put you in jail for the next 70 years. The same emotional response you would have to my statement is what the Neshama has when the Bereshit says, go down into a group. So, okay, but we understand why the Neshama goes back. It goes in the group so that it should be ready for the Savoda. We understand that. But what we can't understand is why does it have to repeat itself? Once the person dies and the Neshama goes out, that's it. The Neshama has done whatever job it did. Why does it have to come back again after a certain number of years and again go back to the body and live again? Why does the Neshama have to do this? That's our question. Number one. Question number two. When we said last time, we said, in fact the last number of times, that what is the function of the guf, or what is the function of the body? Why is there a body to begin with? If God only created neshamas or souls, and that's essentially our entity, why is there a guf? So we said that the function of the guf, the physical world, is to create a condition where God withdraws and God hides. In other words, a person in a physical body is not in contact with Ruchnius. There is no sense experience of spirituality. It is not possible to sense spirituality while you're in a body. Why does God want to do this? Why does He take a neshama, who is the essence of spirituality, and force it in a position where it no longer can what? See that spirituality? Because He wants us to work for that spirituality. If He's to work for it, God must withdraw it from Him. And that's what the Bereshit does. The Bereshit withdraws that ruchnius. He withdraws the ability of the neshama to perceive God, and God hides. And the neshama is in a body, God is no longer visible. And the Bereshit says to the person, now work to see me. Work to relate to me. And to the extent that you develop a relationship with me, to the extent that you come to know me in that state called the physical state, to that extent will you be zircha, will you be rewarded with the perception of me if at a future time, without any hindrance. That is again a very simple summary of what we've said before. So if the purpose of the body is essentially to provide a medium of what? Of concealment, and that's its function, after 120 years and the person has finished his job, and he's at the point of death, you see, because the Bereshit now is in the position to judge the person, the neshama, God doesn't need the body anymore. The body's finished. It's like a suit of clothes. You get up in the morning, you put on your clothes. Why? Because you've got to go outside. You've got to go into the world. But once that's finished, the truth is you don't need that suit of clothes, really. The neshama does not need the body once its job is over. Once it departs from this world, it goes to the world of spirit, where it really belongs. It doesn't need a body. So why is the person then again take the neshama and put it back down? What is the purpose of that? The body has no purpose like that. That was the second question. The third question is based on the Torah itself. We saw, and I went into a whole long thing last week about one of the important principles, techniques in learning Hashkafa. I will not repeat it again, just very briefly. We saw that one of the most critical aspects in understanding Hashkafa is to constantly understand what the world was like when man was first created. The first man is Adam HaRishon. He was created, he was put into a garden, the Gan Eden, and God said to him, do not eat from the tree of do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You can eat from all the trees, but I don't want to eat from that one. And Adam was faced with a conflict. He had a Yetzer Tov, he had a Yetzer Hara, and he had a mitzvah, commandment from God, what to do and rather what not to do. Adam failed to do it. Because he failed to do it, many aspects of his reality changed. What is very critical to understand, what changed in his reality? What existed in the reality of Adam Rishon before he did the sin, and what existed in the reality of Adam Rishon after he did the sin? Why do we want to know that? Because the fundamental principle is that all reality out there is essentially based on two criteria. Two and only two criteria. Everything which exists in the world is a result simply to create a condition for free will, to create a condition where man is forced to choose between God or himself. That's one. So that aspect is the concept of what? Bechira, or free will. There are many segments of reality out there which attempt in some way to accommodate the principle of Bechira, or the principle of free will. The necessity of Bechira, or free will, is a reality determinant. Bechira is a reality determinant. The necessity to accomplish free will, the conditions which are necessary to support that kind of objective, shapes reality in a certain way. We said, the guf. Why was Adam given a guf? So that there can be free will. Why was he given a Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov? So that there can be free will. Why wasn't he given a mitzvah? So that he can exercise free will. All these things were there because of free will. Free will, or Bechira, is a necessary what? A necessary theme, or objective. That objective shapes reality. But we see another thing, that after Adam sinned, we see that reality was changed. So we see another very thing, there's something else which shapes reality. And what is that? Chet. What is chet? Sin. The fall of man, the Avera, the transgression of Adam Rishon, did what? It did something in reality. So it is also a reality determinant. So what you see is an amazing thing, that when you sin, it's not that you sin and something, well, I sinned, big deal. Oh, so what? What you must understand is that when you do a chet, something's going to happen out there. Something is going to change out there as a reflection of what you did. Reality will reshape itself because of your chet. Thus there are two determinants which shape reality. Why do we study Adam Rishon before he sinned and Adam Rishon after he sinned? Because we simply want to know what of reality is determined because of Bechira, because God needed it for a certain supportive environment for Bechira, and what of reality will change in response to sin. That will tell you the control that you have of reality itself. Because this part is in our hands. That part is not. That was given to Adam Rishon. His neshama was forced into a body. He was forcefully placed in the Gan Eden. He was given a taiva. He was given a desire for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He was given a Yetzer Hara. He was given a Yetzer Tov. He had no choice about these things. But did he have to transgress it? No. So that aspect is his own control. With that principle, we ask our third question. What did the Rebbeinu say to Adam Rishon before he sinned? He said, don't eat from the Eitz Hadas so raw, because on the day that you eat from that tree, you will surely die. You will die. What do we see from that? What happens if Adam had never transgressed? Is that possible? Of course it's possible. Rebbeinu didn't build in the failure of Adam Rishon. He didn't want Adam to fail. But now that Adam failed, you see, let's look at the other possibility. There was a possibility that Adam would not have failed. Just like he did the chet, he could have done the mitzvah. What would have happened if he had done the mitzvah? Who? What? there would not have been death. What would there have been? There would have been a condition called Olam Haba. We know very clearly that if Adam Rishon had not sinned, Olam Haba would have started right then and there. Adam was created on Erev Shabbos. He was created Friday morning. He was given to Friday night, till Shkia, till Shabbos itself, whether or not he would do the Chay. That's all he had to do. All he had to do was wait for 12, for whatever it is, 6 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours. That's all. If he had not done it, that Shabbos itself would have been Olam Haba. That Shabbos would have been Olam Haba. Incredible thing, because you realize something else. The truth of the matter is, if Adam had not sinned, there would be no Shabbos. But besides that, there are a lot of things. Now, I can go on and list you 10 different things of what there would have been and what there wouldn't have been, and you would be astounded. Because it just absolutely makes no sense what not have been if Adam had not sinned. But I don't want to do that. I want to concentrate only on one thing. Because the Torah says that if you sin, you will die. So therefore, there's no question that death is what? Death is a determinant from which factor? Chay. Death. The separation of the guf and the neshama is a determinant from the factor of transgression or sin, not from the factor of bechira. But when you think about that, that's an incredible thing. That means, just think about that. That means the following. That means Adam, who had a body, the neshama and a body, would have gone into Olam Haba. Where's his body? Because if there's no death, there's no separation. But it's astounding. What is the body doing in Olam Haba? Olam Haba is a place where the neshamas hang out. That body. So what is the thing here? What is the body doing in Olam Haba? Well, that's clearly what the Torah is saying. That encapsulates our problem and it emphasizes it. So therefore, number one, we are concerned what? With the fact of why there is a resurrection of the dead. The Buddhism says you got to come back in your body. We don't understand that. We don't understand, number one, why you have to come back. It's painful from the neshama. We don't understand that. What do you need the body in Olam Haba? And the Torah says specifically that the body has to come in Olam Haba. I have proved to you conclusively to the Torah itself that the body will be in Olam Haba. It will be. Now we understand in a sense why you have to come back. That's the answer to Tchias HaMesim. You must be resurrected in your body because your body is going to Olam Haba with you. The body that you are in now. After 120 years, when you are no longer in that body, you see, you will come back to it someday. That body will be reconstructed, even though the body is in the grave and it decays, right? It decays.
And what about
So, if you want to ask a question, just please raise your hand first. I'd rather have it that way. Your body will be what? Reconstructed. The material elements will again be reconstructed, so suddenly it will take its old shape and form. Basically, I don't want to go into what the body's going to look like or whatever have you. In the exact sense, I really don't want to go into that. You see, but it's suffice to say at this point that body will be reconstituted. The neshama will again enter it, and the person will literally crawl out of his grave. You see all these crazy movies out there about all these dead people getting up. Well, the truth of the matter is there's a certain truth to that. You see, except that when they get up, they don't look like the things that are getting up. They don't look like these ghouls that are coming out of the ground, chasing you. You know what I mean? But there was a truth to that. There's a nuisance of emes in those crazy clouds. There's a spark of truth to that. Yes.
Someone has been in different bodies at different times.
I know. I don't want to get into which one comes back. That's a good rule myself. Yes.
I've heard that the Rambam talks about that it would be a higher thing if we were in Olam Haba without the body.
Yes. Okay. There are certain different views on some of these things. I don't want to get into different views. What I'm saying here tonight is the Kabbalistic view. Is the view of the Kabbalah, the view of Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, is the view of Isaac Luria, the Ari, is the view of the entire Kabbalistic tradition, which is the essence of the matter. That's where the absolute truth lies at this point.
And the Rambam?
I don't want to go into the Rambam's view. The Rambam's view is a speculative view, based on his understanding. The Rambam did not take a view based on what's called a Kabbalah, or from a higher source. You see. But I don't want to think. The point is, this view is the essential view. It is the view for the Kabbalah that we have of what it really will be, how it really exists.
Why will the body will the neshama get used to being happy in the body after a while, or is it always individual?
No, it is, when it comes back, it will be totally happy.
No, I mean, once it gets in after the pain.
I know there is no pain when it comes back. There will be no
You're not
pain.
hearing me. Once it gets in and it understands why it's in the body to do its job.
The second time or the first
The
time?
first time, right now in all of us, is the body we're coming, we're doing, is the body, is the neshama happy now? Once it got in?
Someone's never happy to be in the body. At this point in time. Never happy. Yes.
How do we know that it's going to happen? We don't have, we haven't experienced it
How do
yet.
we know what's going to happen? That the body, the resurrection of the dead?
Right, we haven't.
Torah, we learned that out from the, we learned that out from the Torah itself.
Well, we didn't get this knowledge from experience.
No, we got it from Revelation. From prophets. We get this knowledge from the Torah, and we get the Torah from God. So God is telling us,
Well, we haven't seen it happen.
it hasn't happened yet. You haven't seen it because it has not happened yet.
We don't really know what the conditions are. And
Now what?
it could happen.
But we know that it will happen. The Baruch Shem tells us that it will happen. It will. The Baruch Shem says himself, this will happen. As I have made you live once, I will make you live twice. That is in the Torah. And that's what the Baruch Shem tells us in the Torah. We are trying to understand what the logic and the sense of that is. We're trying to understand why that is. Now you have just the first time here, so it's hard to understand now. See, but you'll have to bear with it. See, I know it's coming out of left field, but you know that's what it is. Yes.
Specific source where it says in the Torah that
The Nevi'im say it.
the dead is the body and
I'll give it. It's in the Nevi'im. It's in the prophet. Yeah, he's working more, but he raised the dead, but it's in the. I forget exactly this moment where it is in the Torah. Nevi'im. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on. These are the questions. What is the answer? The answer is very simple. The answer is that you are going to go into Olam Haba with your body. That's the answer. And that's obviously the answer, because we see that Adam Rishon is going to go into Olam Haba with his body. The question is, why does he go with his body? Okay, that's the question. Two questions. How does Adam Rishon go into Olam Haba with his body? Olam Haba is a spiritual place. What is the body doing in Olam Haba? Number one, how does he go in Olam Haba with his body? And number two, why does he go in with his body? Zichuch Haguf. Two very, very important terms. Zichuch Haguf. As you know the term Nam Miksufa, so you must know the term Zichuch Haguf. That is a very, very critical term. What does Zichuch Haguf mean? Zichuch means purification. Guf means the body. Zichuch Haguf means the purification of the body. How is that? The following way. When the Rebbe created the world, he created the world on a number of different levels. You see, a number of different planes. What's the difference from one plane to another? What is the difference between a neshama and a guf? The difference is in their substance. the substance which the neshama is composed of is called ruchni, or spirit. The substance in which the body is composed of is called gashmi, or physical. What really is the difference between the physical and the spiritual in substance? The difference is in the way they exist. Ruchnius, or spirit, exists in a higher fashion. It is more pure. It has a higher degree of what's called kedusha. Holiness, kedusha. It is a substance which is extremely fine. The guf is a substance which is composed of different materials, but it is material which exists more coarse or more coarsely. It's like the difference, in a sense, between, let's say, a solid and a gaseous body in physical aspects. They're both physical. A gas, liquid. Solid, liquid, and gas are three different states of physical matter. Physical matter can exist as a solid, as a liquid, or as a gas. But just like physical matter can exist in three states, substance can exist in different states. So that you can have a certain type of substance which is very fine in its existence. It is so fine and so pure that it cannot be sensed by physical substance. It cannot be known by physical substance. So that you have two different levels or two different ways of substance. You can have physical substance, or you can have spiritual substance, or you can have physical substance. You understand? These constitute two different planes of existence. They are different in substance. Ruchnius, or spirit, is very fine. I don't mean fine in terms of, it's granulated. It's fine in just the way that its existence is very pure. Physical substance, the existence is much coarser. It's very hard to describe it better than that, because we really don't have the perception of spiritual substance. I've never seen spiritual substance. It's not amenable to sight. So it's hard to describe the nature of its existence. But at this point, suffice to say that ruchnius, spiritual substance, is a very fine plane of existence, and gashmius, physical substance, is a coarser plane of existence. What is the relationship of these two? What happens if these two get together? What happens in their interaction? I'll tell you a very interesting thing. What happens in their interaction is an explosion. An explosion. We're in an explosion. If this comes in contact with that, what happens is a very strange thing. This, Gashmi, suddenly begins to change. It begins to transmute. And it begins to shed its physical aspect. And it begins to become purer. Does it become ruchnius? No. But what happens is it loses its coarse quality, which doesn't allow spirit to shine through it. If you take a spiritual thing and you put it into a physical thing, that spiritual thing is blocked. That spiritual thing, and let's look at it this way. If you have a spiritual thing, right, and the neshama, right, and you surround it with a body, right, what happens? Then this spiritual thing, item, which is composed of ruchnius, cannot see through it. It is blocked. You see. Why? The neshama cannot transcend the guf. The neshama, which is composed of ruchnistic substance, is imprisoned in the physical substance, and it cannot transcend it. Meaning, it cannot come into contact with other types of ruchnius. It cannot go beyond it in that way. Why? Because the guf contains, by virtue of substance, a barrier to that. But the interesting thing is the following: that in reality, what really should happen is that when you take spirit and put it in here, what should happen is very simply, the neshama would begin to dissolve the guf. Not dissolve the shape of it, but dissolve its substance. So that all of a sudden, the substance of the guf literally changes. And when it dissolves to a certain point, the substance is mutated so that it is no more a mask to Ruchnius, and the neshama breaks through while it's in the guf. The neshama doesn't have to go out of a guf to see spirit or to come in contact. It doesn't have to. Even though the neshama is composed of material, you see, which is blocked by the guf, but in the neshama, in itself, it has the power to dissolve the coarse aspect of the guf, you see, and literally make the guf from a opaque barrier to a transparent barrier. It's like glass. If I enclose you in glass which is opaque, you cannot see anything outside of it, can you? No. But if you can take out the opaque quality of the glass without changing the glass, it's still glass, right? But you can take out that ingredient in it which makes it opaque. What happens to the glass? The glass becomes transparent. Can you then see beyond? Yes. Are you still inside the glass? Yes. You don't have to go outside of the glass to come in contact with what's outside. Just remove its opaque aspect. You see? So therefore, just because the Banisham took the neshama and put it into the body, that alone doesn't prevent the neshama from seeing outside. Big deal. The neshama is so powerful in its ruchnius that it literally can begin to work on the opaque quality of the guf and reconvert it and mutate it so that now the guf becomes transparent. And as soon as it becomes transparent, suddenly the light of ruchnius, the light of the Banisham goes right through it. And the neshama begins to see the Banisham, begins to perceive God while it's in the guf. Do we understand that? That's an incredible process, isn't it? That's amazing. It's awesome. Up to now, we were going on the assumption that a neshama in the guf is in prison. It is in a barrier. That is not true. The neshama is much mightier than that. A guf is no problem for a neshama. No problem at all. You see. Then all the neshama simply has to do is turn on, begin to express the full radiance of its kedusha and its ruchnius, and suddenly the whole guf sheds its opaque quality, and that's it. The neshama is now completely in contact with the light from the Banisham. What is that process called? That's called zichor haguf. Why is that process possible? Because ruchnius, spirit, has the capacity to transmute the opaque qualities of a lower form of existence. It is not possible to imprison ruchnius in a lower form of existence, really. It is not, you see. Because the form of existence of an neshama is so high, its substance, which ruchnius, is so powerful, you see, that it will simply transmute anything, any barrier which is put on it if it's in a lower state, meaning that it's coarser. It has that ability. That's called zichor. Ruchnius has the ability to transmute gashmius, so that the geshem loses its opaqueness. Now this is important. It doesn't destroy the gashmius. It doesn't destroy the substance of the body, not at all. It simply mutates it so that the opaque quality of the gashmius is gone. You understand? And that's why the example I give you of glass, opaque, to transparent glass is a very good example. The glass is still there. There's no difference. What has been changed is the opaque aspect of it. So in other words, the neshama has the ability to work on some feature in physical substance which is responsible for the barrier property and remove it and allow the physical substance to retain its integrity and still remain a guf. Very nice. What I'm saying is very interesting, isn't it? It's a tremendous chiddush here. What's the obvious question? So then why can't any of us see ruchnius? What happened? Wait a minute. I've just said an amazing thing, right? I'm saying take the neshama, put it to a guf. no problem. The neshama is not intimidated by this. Simply mutate the body, remove its opaqueness, I'm back to where I started from. No problem for the neshama. That's the law of substantial progression. A higher substance can mutate a lower one. It can. It can do that. So what's the problem? The problem is with the Baruch Shalom. The Baruch Shalom doesn't want that. Does the Baruch Shalom want the neshama to do that? Of course not. Because the Baruch Shalom wants to hide. If the Baruch Shalom wants to hide, he needs substance which cannot be transmuted. If the neshama goes into a body and suddenly forms the body into a spot so that it becomes transparent, so what is the guf doing? What is the purpose of the guf? You see that?
We have to work.
That's the problem. We see that the Baruch Shalom does not want Vichuch HaGuf. He doesn't want that outcome, number one, because that would what? That would be against, that would be antagonistic to his desire, to his objective. He wants the body to be good and opaque, because he doesn't want to be seen. He wants the person to work to see him. So he wants to be really invisible. So he takes the neshama and puts into a body. Well, put into a body, great. But then you can only be invisible what? Maybe for a couple of minutes. You see? Because the neshama will crawl back up to its ruchnius. And it's over. The neshama's back there again. If that's possible, then why are we all bodies? Why can't we see Malachim? Why can't we see angels? Why can't we see the whole celestial sphere? Why not? If we can mazachach HaGuf, if we can purify it and what? Transform it. So why aren't we doing it? Obviously the Baruch Shalom did something. You see? Obviously the Baruch Shalom severed an important membrane somewhere so that you can't do it. What membrane did he sever? What the Baruch Shalom said to the neshama is the following. He created the neshama with full force and full power, didn't he? Okay? But before he put that neshama in the guf, he says, wait a minute, I'm not going to put you into that guf so that you can undo what I have in my design. I will put you in that guf in a situation where you cannot undo it. The guf will remain opaque. How? The Baruch Shalom said to the neshama, diminish yourself, reduce yourself. And what the Baruch Shalom did was, he took away the power of its kedusha, so that even though it's spiritual, it does not have the power which is necessary to transform the guf. It can't do it. It no longer has the power. The Baruch Shalom cut it in half, took away its power. If it had its full power, it wouldn't have a problem. The neshama does not have that power anymore. Hence it must sit in the guf without the ability of transformation. Why does the Baruch Shalom want that? Because it's obviously the Baruch Shalom wants what? The Baruch Shalom wants the guf to serve as a barrier. So we have this scenario. We have a neshama that was created, reduced in half. Not exactly half, but I'm just using it in the terminology. Its power taken away, put into a body. And that was Adam Rishon. That was the first man. He was a neshama that was created. He was reduced in his power, put into a body. And he was told, find me by effort. Now, if this is so, then what do we have to do with Zichar HaGuf? This sounds interesting. It sounds very novel that really a neshama could remove the opaqueness of the body. And we understand why the Baruch Shalom does not want that to be done. But will there ever come a time when the neshama will purify the body? Yes. There will come such a time. When? There should have been that time. If Adam Rishon had not done his sin, if he had not done it, he would have what? He would have retrieved that power. That power would have been restored to him. And when that power would have been restored to him, he would then have been in position to completely remove the opaqueness of the body. And by removing the opaqueness of the body, he would have seen what there is to see in Olam Haba. Full extent. More than that. It's not that he would have seen what there is in Olam Haba. That is Olam Haba. Olam Haba is nothing more, you see, than the neshama in its new state, with now the retrieved power that it has, and working on its body, mutating it, transforming it. If Adam Rishon had not done the sin, you see, what happened is that a Kedusha would have come down, spiritual force would have come down for him, into his neshama. His neshama was a candle when it was put into the body. But if he had done the mitzvah, his neshama would have been a torch. As a torch, the body would not have been able to withstand that power. But it's not only the body that would have been mutated, transformed, it's the whole Gan Eden. The entire place. Everything was connected to the body. The neshama of Adam Rishon was so powerful. And with this new this new life that he would have achieved would have been so great that literally he would have changed the entire feel of his body. He would have removed its complete opaque quality. He would have removed the opaque quality of the entire Gan Eden, of all the trees, his entire environment. And what would have happened? The entire physical world he lived in at that time would have suddenly become transparent. And the yichud, or the ability to perceive God and his power, would have suddenly become visible. That is Olam Haba. Olam Haba is not a place where you're going to go. There's no train ride. There's no journey to Olam Haba. There are no tickets being sold to go to Olam Haba. This is Olam Haba. Outside. This is it. Here. Except it is a state where all physicality is transformed. When it is no more a barrier. Olam Haba is Olam Hazeh. This world. In a state of zichur. In a state of what? Transformed. That is Olam Haba. You're sitting on it. Now you may say, I'm sitting on it. Is this what I'm waiting for? Because you have no idea what this world would look like if it was not opaque. You have no idea. We are all blind. We are blind people sitting in the dark. That's what it is. It is a room. We are sitting in a room. If I had an apartment, the most luxurious apartment in Manhattan, and I'm sure that there's some apartments in Manhattan that are absolutely astounding. Okay? I don't know where they're located. I don't have the means to live in them, but I'm sure maybe in some tower, somewhere, there's got to be this apartment which is incredible. Let's say I took you, right, and I blindfolded you, and I put you into that apartment, okay, and I shut off all the lights, and it was pitch black, and I took off the blindfold, and I said, this is where you're going to live for the next 70 years. You would be miserable. Because you couldn't see a thing, could you? Yet you're living in the most beautiful apartment in Manhattan. You're living in it, but you're blind to it. But let's say something happens. Someone walked in and here you're sitting in misery, you see. Or rather you finally think that, well, look, this is the best I can do. In some way, so what you do as like a blind man, you get up and you feel the furniture, you walk along like a blind person. Everything, you bang yourself here, or whatever the story is, but that's the way you live for years and years. You live in this most incredibly luxurious apartment most of your life. All your life, right? And the best you can do is enjoy it in this dark state. One day, an incredible event happens. The super comes up and says, hey, this apartment is dark. Why didn't you tell me that? The man says, what are you talking about, dark? This is what this apartment is about. So the super says, no, that's not true. You're crazy. One minute, watch. He opens the light. And suddenly the guy, he looks at it and he can't believe it. This is what I've been living in for all these years. It is magnificent. That is what Olam Haba is in this relation to Olam Hazeh. We are living in Olam Haba now. The problem is that there are barriers to it. There's a mask. There's an incredible mass to Olam Haba. We are living in darkness. Why are we living in darkness? Not because someone shut off the light, because our body does not allow us to see the true magnificence of this apartment. You see, and the Baruch Shem has seen to it that you can't do anything about it. He is taking away your ability to get to the switch, so you can't do anything about it. What does the Baruch Shem say? The switch is in your hands. He gives us the switch. What is that? The mitzvah. When we do the mitzvah, when we develop a relationship with the Baruch Shem, when we cling to what He's saying, because we cling to what He is, slowly a kedusha begins to descend. It begins to come down. Where is it coming from? You can't see it, but it's coming there. It is going there. It is in you. With any mitzvah you do, you replenish that. You see, you retrieve it. And suddenly there comes a point when you have reached what's called the critical threshold. You have enough power to generate all that energy, and suddenly the darkness is gone. You are living in beautiful luxury.
Before about an explosion. Could you clarify that a little more? Is that like the experience when the Kundalini opens up?
No. What it means, explosion means the following. It means that if spirit was put into physical matter, that physical matter will lose its ability to mask spiritual presence. Spiritual presence has nothing to do, and this is only intended for you, who said the question, with Kundalini. That's a whole different thing. That mask has nothing to do with spirituality. Perception of self. That's something else. There are barriers to the true perception, or the total perception, or the pure perception of self. You see, what all yoga does, and what they all try and do, is to remove the barrier to an awareness of self, or to establish a state of super consciousness. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something much greater, much more powerful. It's not self which we're talking about. It's the ability to come in contact with the ultimate reality itself. You see, with everything that exists in that world. Spiritual substance placed into physical substance would automatically, by its nature, transform it. Were it not for the fact that the Baruch Shem has confiscated the power of the neshama to do it. Yeah. When is this power confiscated from the neshama? Before it goes down to the guf. Because if the neshama goes down into the guf in a state of full power, the guf is instantly transformed.
Even though he was 99.9% roughly, if he still had removed,
he didn't have the response. Whatever. I don't want to go into the shades, but the principle was there. Other missions did not have the power to purify the guf.
By doing the mitzvah.
Who? Yes, he told my Tzedakah mitzvah.
So he did have the power by doing the mitzvah.
If he would have gotten the power back. He didn't have the power.
By doing the mitzvah.
But he had to retrieve it.
By doing the mitzvah, he would have purified the guf, right?
By retrieval. He would have retrieved the power confiscated, and he would have purified the guf. Right. Right.
So by doing the het, made that impossible for us to do that ever again.
Well, I don't get, that's a whole different thing. We'll get into that. By doing the chet, well, look at this. Let's examine what it is when he did the mitzvah. If he would have done the mitzvah, and this is the point, what this shows us is what the true nature of Olam Haba is. That's what I'm trying to show you. This concept shows us what Olam Haba is. That Olam Haba is physical reality transformed so that no longer constitutes a barrier. And that's the example I use with the apartment. That's what Olam Haba is. How is it done? How does other nations have the ability to do that? I told you, by doing the mitzvah. That is the power of a mitzvah. It restores the confiscated power or the reduced power and gives you the ability to remove the barrier or the opaqueness of physical reality. And then what happens is, when that happens, that becomes Olam Haba itself. Does Olam Haba exist? Is Olam Haba in some place, somewhere? No. Does Olam Haba exist now? No. It can't exist now. Why not? Because Olam Haba comes from where? Olam Haba is not a place. What is it? It is a stage. It is a phase. It is a phase of existence. It is a stage of existence that has not happened yet. So Olam Haba doesn't exist anywhere. What exists is Olam Hazeh. What exists is a world of the physical, with constituting a barrier to the spiritual. That's what exists now. Yes.
And what exists to the neshama? In the neshama is involved.
Who?
The people who've already died and
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. That's interesting. We'll leave that. Let's leave that. We'll get to that.
Hashem retains the power of the
What is that?
What are you, an engineer? That's an engineering problem. No. How? What the Torah was, Ramchal says, because the Baruch simply said, the Baruch commanded, the Chima Kiyas Ashtar, to do by itself. What the mechanism is not described.
That's the initial Hashtorah that he gave us.
Initial what?
Hashtorah.
Who?
Hashtorah.
Yes.
Well, you talked about last week, it's a condition. But there are different levels of everybody's neshama and body, guf, as they're doing their mitzvahs, right?
Again, one more time and then we leave that. If Adam Rishon had done the mitzvah, what would have happened? He would have received or replenished that power. His neshama would have been in its full state. Okay? He then would have taken his body and the entire physical environment around him, whatever that was, and he would have transformed it. How? By removing its opaque quality. He would then have been in a position to what? To become a complete participant in all spiritual activity. He would have been what we say, Masi Yehudai. He would have been seeing the unity of God, meaning the power and spirituality that emanates from the Shekhinah. And that would have been his Olam Haba. That world would have been his world. That's what should have happened if he had done the mitzvah. Now, Adam failed to do the mitzvah. So the question is, what happened then? Now we understand what happens if you do a mitzvah. What happens if you do a chet? That's the question that we must answer. Wait. What happens? What happens if you do a chet? What happens to this complete system if you do a chet? By refusing to listen to what the Banishim said, by choosing his own apparent divinity over a real divinity, Adam Rishon did an enormous catastrophe. But that catastrophe was really two things, not one. What was the purpose of Adam Rishon? The purpose of Adam Rishon, the reason why the Banishim put Adam Rishon in the gun and said, do the mitzvah, was to mezachech his guf. The purpose of Adam Rishon was to bring down a new Kedusha, a greater Kedusha, right? A greater power, so that he would have the ability to be mezachech the guf, to purify the guf, and create Olam Haba. That's what it's about. Adam did not do it. So therefore, since he did not listen to God, he failed to what? To be mezachech the guf. You see? So we would expect the following. Wait a minute. If by doing a certain action you achieve a certain objective, by not doing this action you do not achieve the objective. Logical, right? And that should be simply the consequence. Right? In other words, if I'm supposed to move this object from here to here, that's my goal. To move an object from here to here. And I'm told to move it. Well, if I do it, I go over and I move it. Fine. So let's say, I don't want to move it. So then what is the consequence of that? The fact that it will not have been moved. That's all. So, according to that logic, what should have been the consequence of the transgression of Adam Rishon? Simple failure to mezachech his body. Simple failure to mezachech his reality. Hence, He remains where he's at. Right? That should have been what his consequence was. Was that the consequence? No. It was much worse. Much worse. The consequence of what Adam did was not only that he failed to elevate his body up to a level where it could become a rabah, but what he did was he caused his body to descend even further. What was the relationship of his body to his neshama in terms of its ability to what? To match ruchnius. Was it opaque? No. It was translucent. It was translucent. In other words, and this is the amazing thing, when Adam Rishon was in his body, do you think that he was devoid of ruchnius? Do you think that he could not see spirituality? No. You're mistaken. Because his body was really translucent. When you were looking in front of translucent glass, can you see that which is behind it? To some extent you can. You can see shadows behind the glass. It's not totally opaque, is it? You can see it, except that it's obscure. Adam Rishon was able to look, and he was able to see spirit. He can see it. He could see it. Because his whole body was translucent. He wasn't able to make out a sharp image of it, but he was able to spot and to see to some extent that spiritual substance. But it was obscure. It was vague. What the Buddhism said, your body is a barrier. It is a translucent barrier. If you do the mitzvah, you will take that translucent body and make it transparent. Adam failed to do the mitzvah. Hence it wasn't only that what? His body remained translucent. His body then became for the first time opaque. His body was never opaque. He always had some ability to what? To be aware of spirit, ruchnius. When Adam did the transgression, he became completely opaque. He was out of touch with ruchnius. Why? Why should it become opaque? It doesn't make sense. I just told you a certain logic. If you're so... That what? The logic I just said says the following. If I tell you to do something, and in doing that you will obtain a certain objective, by not doing it you will simply fail to obtain the objective, but you won't get worse. So I'm saying here something else. I'm saying that because Adam failed to go from here to here, he went backwards. But why? By not moving forward, you don't go backwards, you remain where you are. Because what happened was an amazing event. An amazing event. And in order to understand that event, we must understand about the nature of evil, or the nature of law itself. What is the nature of evil? What is the Yetzer Hara? Essentially, what the Buddhism did was the following, very simply. What the Buddhism did was the following. The Buddhism wanted to create neshamas, souls. But the Buddhism also wanted to create bodies, gufim, a body, a physical body. The Buddhism himself does not create bodies. Let me explain what I mean. The Buddhism is the creative power in the world, right? Emanating from that power is kedusha, holiness. Kedusha is the force or the power which produces the neshama. Kedusha is the power, neshama is the entity. Okay? The neshama is composed of extraordinary fine substance called ruchnius, spirit. The Buddhism knew that the neshama had problems with what? With the perception of himself. The neshama cannot take the toll, the good that he has in store. It has to what? Work for it. It needs to work for it. So the Buddhism wanted to give a choice, and the Buddhism decided to create a different environment called physical reality. Our world and the body. But how does God create a body? Really? Where does the body come from? If a body doesn't have the kedusha of the neshama, how do you make that substance? So, I can only go into it in a very macroscopic level. The matter is extraordinarily complex, and it's room for very advanced thinking, which is not possible at this point. But what the Buddhism does is the following. He creates another force. Another force. How he creates that other force is an advanced matter. But if you stick long enough here, we will get to that answer. But right now we must accept that it's created. He creates another force. That force is called several names. You must become aware of these names. That force is called Tuma. Tuma means impurity. It's a force. It is also called Ra, evil. It is also called, in its most technical sense, in the Kabbalistic word, is Sitra Achra. What does Sitra Achra mean? Sitra Achra means other side. What does that mean, other side? We will not go into that. Because this word contains the clue to how God created it. But these things for our purpose is the same thing. Tuma, Ra, Sitra Achra. It's all the same thing. What is it? It is a power. It is a force. That's what it is. Okay? It is a force. Now, what is the purpose of this force? This force cannot do anything. This force cannot create a nail. What can this force do? What this force do is very simple. No. What this force can do is the following. It can't create, but it's a power. What it can simply do is what?
Takes away from
Yes. What the force does, it is a negative force. What this force can do is act on this and cancel it out. That's all it can do. Does it actually cancel it out? No. What it does, it swallows it. It absorbs it, right? And holds the Kedusha in it. And when it holds the Kedusha in it, you see, it then is able to use that Kedusha to produce something which that Kedusha never had in mind. In effect, what it does, it takes that force, which is called Kedusha, holiness, right, or that force, and it limits it, blocks it, retards it, impedes it, obstructs it, so that when the Kedusha does act, it is acting as an inadequate force. It is acting, what? In only semi-capacity. When Kedusha acts in a semi-capacity, it produces the guf. That's where the guf comes from. Is the guf produced from Kedusha? Yes. But what's the difference between the neshama and the guf? The neshama is produced by pure Kedusha. The guf is produced by Kedusha that's been absorbed, that's under treatment of a negating force. So that what? It's like Kedusha which is filtered through a filter, so that some of it comes out and the rest is blocked. It's a filter. Tuma is a filter to the Kedusha. You see? And when Tuma acts on Kedusha, it filters it out, so what comes out is not a ruchnistic being. What comes out is a new type of being, a new type of entity. It's called guf. It is called physical matter. It is called 92 elements. Our world from the planet Earth to the nth galaxy, everything, the entire physical universe and everything that's in it is produced by what? By Kedusha in the filter of Tuma. Now from this structure we see another critical observation. Bear with me. We understand this? Do we understand the difference in the creation of guf to the creation of the neshama? We understand that? Wait. There is another critical principle. from this, now that you see the origin of Guf to the origin of Neshama in terms of how they're created, you can see now why Guf has Kedusha. Do you remember I've been talking all the time about Yichud HaMesafeh and Yichud HaMesgalab? Do you remember I was saying that our physical world has in it also Kedusha, except in a hidden form? Do you see why? Because the Guf is real Kedusha in a filter. So therefore the Guf has all the Kedusha of the Neshama in the same way, except the filter masked it, so the Guf is completely different. You see? But in the Guf itself is Kedusha. Why? Because remember, Tumah, the force of Tumah is not a creative force. It cannot create a nickel. It can't do anything. All it can do is what? Rock. You know, there's an old story that they say. There was this fellow, this rabbi, used to always give lectures. He would give these Gemara lectures. And there was one student who was an absolute pain. Every time he got up here and gave lectures, the student would constantly bombard him with questions. And he had a lot of people, and after a while he couldn't take it. So the rabbi finally said, after the group was over, he says, "Hey, Yankov, come here for a minute." He says, "I want to tell you a story. When I go to Olam Haba, when everyone goes up to the Beis Din Shemala, when we go up to the heavenly court and we're all judged, the heavenly court is going to say, 'Did you learn Torah down there?' And the Neshama is going to say, 'Yes, I learned a lot of Torah.' So the heavenly court will say, 'Okay, tell us some Torah.' So the Neshama is going to rattle off Torah and show what is required in this world. The heavenly court will say, 'Fine, pass through.' When you get up there, your Neshama is going to appear before the court, and the court is going to say to you, the judge is going to say, 'Did you learn Torah?' And you're going to say, 'Well, I'll tell you what. The truth of the matter is, what I did is the following. You say the Torah, and I'll knock it out. In other words, you say the Torah, and I will criticize it. That's going to be what you can contribute.' What that's supposed to mean is essentially, in this particular thing, what that's supposed to mean is that this person, essentially what the rabbi was telling this person is that everyone is going to have something positive to contribute. All you can do is contribute negative things. Essentially, this is what it is. A sitra achra, a tumah, is a negative force. It cannot produce. It can only impede. That's all it can do. But it cannot live on its own. In order to live, in order to function, in order to work, it has to go to Kedusha. You see, it is identified by Kedusha. Can Kedusha live on its own? Yes. It is a full force, capable of creative activity. Tumah has no creative activity. Its only creative activity is to block somebody else's creative activity. You see, it can only function as a ganaf, as a thief. That's all it can do. Hence, in order for it to live, it must always run after Kedusha. And it attempts to swallow it, or attempts to deal with it, so that it can perform its activity of taking it away, or masking it, or blocking it. You see what I'm saying? That is the relationship of these two forces. But the Baruch created these two forces because the Baruch wanted to create an existence, a substance, which is invisible to spirit. So the Baruch therefore did not employ the full force of Kedusha. The full force of Kedusha creates Neshamas. But if that force of Kedusha is now retarded and filtered, it will produce another type of substance called Guf. Do we see that? Now, what the Baruch said to Adam was the following. You can restore that balance. You can do the following. The Kedusha, which is necessary to create the Guf, you see, you can dislodge it. Because if you do a mitzvah, you will bring down enough Kedusha to negate this force. And what happens if you negate the force? Then the full Kedusha suddenly acts on the Guf itself, and the Guf becomes transformed. You see that? The Neshama has the ability, by bringing down Kedusha, to negate this negative force. And by negating the negative force, this Guf, which is a substance that emanates from God, the combination of these two forces, suddenly is elevated to a new type of being that never existed before. So that you have a Guf which is capable of seeing spirit. Do we understand it? Do we? Okay? Now, when the Guf is created, the Guf that was created was a translucent material. That's what it was. In other words, the amount of negated Kedusha wasn't that significant. The Baruch created a lot of Kedusha, and he created very little amount of Tumah. You see? A tiny amount of Tumah, like salt and pepper. That's all. And he took the Kedusha, and he salted it with Tumah. That's all. So what resulted was what? Was a body which is almost spiritual. Because the tumor was only a little salt. You understand? And that's the way it's supposed to be. That was the guf that was supposed to be there. The Baruch said to Adam, your guf has been salted. You can remove the salt. Very simple. Do the mitzvah. And what happens is the salt will disappear itself. And suddenly the guf itself will suddenly be elevated into a different type of being. That's what's supposed to have happened. Now, what is this is the inner mechanics of what should have happened in a spiritual way, what Adam should have done. These are the powers and these are the forces which are behind that. But what did happen?
And you have to...
Hanagat HaMishpat. Do you understand why the Hanagat HaMishpat is responsible for all this? Because this is all necessary for free will. All this is done by the Hanagat HaMishpat. Now, 1 minute. 1 minute. Ability to go to Kedusha and what? And affect it in such a way where it reduces it, it's able to retard it. Tumah was used understand these statements? Do we understand this? That's the summary of what we just said. Right? The pure force of Kedusha produces a being like a neshama, pure substance. Kedusha, affected by Tumah, the negative force acting on it, will produce a guf, a substance which is much lower. Okay? Tumah itself is the force. Okay? Tumah is that negative force. Substance. What is the substance? Satanic forces. What is substance? Substance is a malach, an angel. He is an angel that was created. Okay? The substance is a malach that was created. That malach was created, and the force behind that malach is Tumah. And what the Buddhism said was the following. This substance, this Tumah, you see, is a force which is used to achieve certain objectives. One objective. This is the force, this is the agent. The force is Tumah, the agent is a malach or an angel called the Satan. It is the job of the angel to go around to the guf, like this, and attempt to make the guf as small as possible in its seductive ability, so that Adam Rishon does not remove the Tumah. In other words, what the Buddhism did was to create the force of Tumah, and he made it more than a force. He put that force into a real agent called Satan, who is an angel. The job of that angel, of that malach, is to go to the person and attempt to seduce him to what? To believe fully in the supremacy of the guf, or the supremacy of physical reality, or the supremacy of what? Of apparent divinity. The supremacy of the self versus the supremacy of God. That's what it is. When Adam Rishon listened to the Satan, who was the Satan in the time of Adam Rishon? Where did this force manifest itself? It manifested itself in the Nachash, in the snake. Now, it's a strange story there. We see a snake that spoke. The truth of the matter is, there was an animal at that time who had the faculty of speech. But that animal, which was a snake at that time, only a very minimal resemblance to the snake of our time, who had the faculty of speech. But not only did that snake, the Nachash, have the faculty of speech, but essentially its animation was mostly from the force of Tumah. Mostly. That's where it took its power from. Not that it knew that, but that's what it was made of. Since essentially it was animated by this power with a sprinkle of Kedusha. In reverse. You see, essentially, the Sultan would work through the Nachash, and the Nachash would address Adam, the man, and attempt to seduce him. But that force, the attempt to seduce Adam, the seductive power, was what? Was outside of Adam. Because the Nachash, or the snake, had a conversation with Adam and Chava. What we see from this is an amazing thing. That before Adam sinned, when he was first made, this power itself, which was used to seduce Adam, was outside of him. You know, that's an amazing thing. The power to do good or the power to do evil lies where? In our own head. Where does the Yetzer and the Yetzer Tov exist? In your own head. There is something in you that says to do good things, and there's something in you which says to do selfish things. But these things are thoughts, aren't they? They're real thoughts. The amazing thing was that in Adam Rishon, before he sinned, he never had a thought of evil in his head. The entire evil inclination, or the desire to do evil, was outside of him, talking to him from an outside being, from an external being. And it was the force, or the seductive force, was placed in a Nachash, and that Nachash, through conversation, would attempt to seduce Adam. But the entire desire to go against God was a desire that existed in Adam, but essentially was seduced or stimulated him from the outside. Adam's body was so pure that the evil force was outside of it, not inside of it. Adam's body, even though it was created from a sprinkle of tumah, but it was so pure that it didn't have any evil in it, really. There was no seductive aspect in the body itself. Really. It was from outside of Adam. When Adam Rishon did the sin, what he did was an enormous thing. Before the sin, the force of the Yetzer Hara was outside. After the sin, he absorbed it inside. When Adam Rishon listened to what the Nachash said, when he and his wife listened to what the Nachash said, they absorbed into their body the full power of the Tumah. The full power was absorbed into his body. What happens if the power of Tumah is absorbed into your body? Then it is no longer a sprinkle of Tumah. It is an enormous amount of Tumah in the body. What that does, that forces the body to become opaque. It is no longer translucent. It is now opaque. So whereas before Adam Rishon had the ability to what? To come in contact with Ruchnius or spirit, he no longer had that ability. His body now contains the force of Tumah completely inside him. The force of Tumah resided in the body of Adam Rishon. Whereas before it did not reside in it, the full force did not reside in it. The body was simply a product of a sprinkle of it. But the full force was not in him, it was outside. When he did the sin, when he listened to it, the full force went into the body. So now the force existed. Now the body was not simply a consequence of the force of Tumah acting from without. Now that force literally inhabited the body itself. That immediate effect was to make the body opaque. Completely opaque. Now, once the body of Adam Rishon is opaque, you may say, therefore what then? Well, now is a problem. Because now, even if God restores the full power to the neshama, can the neshama purify the body? No. No more. The neshama with its power of Kedusha can only purify a body. which essentially is almost the Kedusha, which has very little evil force in it. But once the evil force resides in the body, then no matter how much light you give that neshama, it cannot do anything anymore to the body. The body is finished. The body has been destroyed. Because what resides in the body is an alien force. Do we understand this? There's an alien force in the body now. Not only did Adam fail to elevate the body so that he would bring it to a higher level of purification, what he did was he lowered the body and introduced into its substance an alien force. We all have the bodies that Adam Rishon had after the sin. You want to know what he felt like right after the sin? Feel your body, feel your hands, right? You see that feeling? That's what the result of sin was. When that tumor came into the body, it affected the substance. You want to know what the substance feels like? Feel your body. You see, it's opaque. It's opaque to spirit. Can you see a vestige of spirit? No. It is solid now. Solid, it is a solid invisible barrier. The substance of the body was changed so that it became darker, coarser, you see. And that's what Adam's sin was. Adam's body, after the Chet, was a new body. It wasn't the same body that was before the sin. Before the sin, it was a body that was essentially translucent to spirit. All he had to do was bring down a certain amount of Kedusha, and he would have brought that body up to a level of pure Kedusha. He failed. What he did was he brought a new tumor into the body. He brought the whole force right into his own head, into his own body. Well, now the body was no longer what it was before. So therefore, even if God put down new power, even if Adam said, wait a minute, let me do the mitzvah now. If Adam had turned around, once Adam ate from the Eitz Hadas, once he ate, that force came into his body. That force of evil went into the body. If Adam had turned around and said, wait a minute, give me another chance, give me another mitzvah, I won't do it, and make sure not to transgress, it would not have helped the situation anymore. Because the clothes that he was wearing was torn. It was torn, it was destroyed. It would be impossible to mend it. Impossible to mend it. Even if he retrieves his Kedusha. Do you see the damage that Adam did? Adam Rishon destroyed the ability of Olam Haba. He could no longer create Olam Haba because he no longer has the physical vessel to create Olam Haba. It's like Adam Rishon not only, for example, in the example that I gave you, which was what? The room, the dark room. The luxurious apartment, which is the dark room. Not only did Adam Rishon fail to open up the light, but he took He took an axe, and he went around breaking all the furniture in the apartment. So even if you turn on the light, what's left of the apartment? The apartment is damaged. The apartment is no longer a fit vehicle or a fitting environment to become an Olam Haba. Do we understand that? How do we mend that? How do we mend that? How? How do we undo that damage? You know how we do it? The key lies in one word. There is one word which tells us one thing which is left to mend the damage. No. You know what that word is? Death. Death is the cure. I knew I'd have to wake it up to do somehow. Waking up the dead. Now, how does death do it? Next week.